And we're recording. Welcome back to
Welcome,
Raising Hell
guys, to
to
heaven.
Heaven. So this is our second time recording this because yesterday I thought I had my mic
I did
hooked up
not
and
like yesterday.
you didn't. So it was a God thing. I was
No,
like, no, it's fine. Let's keep it. And God was like, nah, you're not keeping it.
nah, fam.
Okay, so let's just hop right into it. What we were talking about right before we started this recording is
Okay.
this is Sex Before Marriage Part 2 and Do I Fight or Flight, which is we're kind of wrestling with how do you know if you're supposed to walk away from something or if you're supposed to fight for something. And I mean, my argument there would be like the Lord will fight for you, but there's always times when you should also fight. Anyways, so we'll get into that. But where we are starting this off with is where we are in our choice with sex before marriage now, in our fears. And I was just about to tell Kate that a very real fear for me that wasn't something I could have even considered or conceptualized when I was younger. And I was like waiting till marriage for sex. I had the purity ring, I had the whole thing. But these, now that I'm later in my life, I've gotten to witness other relationships. And what happens with some people is that once they get married for some reason, and this is why some people, like I have a friend, her parents never got married because they were so afraid of this, because it's a very real thing where some people will get triggered from the marriage and then all of a sudden be like turned off and it like never comes back, or maybe they didn't do the work to make, because it probably could come back. But that for me is a very real fear, because I'm like, I want to work through that, figure that out before. Like, it's scary to me of this fact of like, okay, well, we're gonna get married and then try to see how the sex life goes. Like, that is a little scary, personally.
I completely agree. Look, it's a very real thing for me too, because previously, like I didn't wait for marriage. And I say now, like since being baptized this year, 2024, I have a different perspective on it, but it feels so big conceptually for me because I haven't lived that way before. I want to do it, like my intentions are pure. I really want to, but it's big. It's a big thing. And it's also like, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to think, could I actually do it? Because intimacy is a big part of any relationship. And I feel like a part of me is like, you've got to know. So I had then thought, well, I want to date to marry, and that's what I'm serious about now. Like, I don't want anything casual, like not at all.
No, sure.
And maybe it's about waiting like a long period of time, like not how, one would normally do it. Well, not normally, but one would do it. Or like you see in the movies where they
But what's
meet and it's just
normal
like,
these
ooh,
days?
okay.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't even know how to answer that. There's some wild
Right.
stuff out there.
I think my biggest thing
But
right
it's a
now,
big
above
thing. Does
everything,
that make me bad?
huh?
Does that make me bad? Does that make me bad? Does that make me non-Christian if I say, like, I want to wait for marriage, but also there's a part of me that wants to know, and what if I'm dating to marry? So I'm not just dating anybody, I'm
Well,
very
first of
discerning about
all,
that.
no, there's no way anything you could do will make you bad or non-Christian. That's not how that works. We both know that.
Yeah.
You are loved, you are forgiven already for everything way in advance. What we're trying to figure out is how to best live, like in a way that really reflects Christ and is honestly beneficial to ourselves and our partners. Right? Like, we're trying to
Yeah.
think that's my biggest thing about this whole topic is I want to be operating and thinking in a way now that's going to respect my future self and my partner, my future partner. And when I'm in a relationship, I want to be thinking about them. So when I come to this whole topic of sex before marriage, like, for me, what's even more important than the act of actually waiting is the act of together making a choice. Because if you can't take like such a it's an important decision, but if you can't do something like this in unison now, how are you supposed to raise kids together, build a life together, whatever it is, build an empire together, if you can't in unity make this decision together? It shouldn't be I'm making this choice, so get on the board or get off for either people. It should be we're going to decide to do this together. And if you do have a similar goal, you can help the other person stay accountable. And that's a tool that you can use
Yeah.
for the rest of your life, whether it's staying fit or your finances or staying positive. You know what I mean? Like, this is a one little topic that can absolutely flow into the rest of your life. But yeah, no, I mean, the reason that we're talking about these things is so that people know, like, these are normal fears. You're not a bad Christian if you are wrestling with these things. And I think that there's a big difference between someone who just really like wants to get their rocks off and someone that is like wanting to do it because of genuine psychological fears or past traumas, or it's two different things. And like you said, like, if you were dating to marry, there's people that are dating to just date, and there's people that are dating to marry, and it's very obvious and different. And when you start dating to marry, it becomes, I mean, it's like we were talking about taking the blinders off. Like, you can't put them back on. Once you see what you truly want in a partner, you can't unsee it.
I completely agree. It is. It's taking those blinders off. And, I was saying this yesterday, but we didn't record. When you set your like, I've definitely set my standards higher, like in terms of what I expect from myself, because I feel like that is automatically going to shift what I look for in a person if I'm holding myself to a higher standard than I've previously lived. Your internal reality mirrors your external reality. So that's what I'm working with. But then just looking at behaviors that I used to accept that I'm just not comfortable with anymore, like at all. And it is, I must say, I'm super grateful. Like, I woke up this morning and I was just like, I am so grateful for, I know I said I prayed for discernment, and you better be prepared to really see things as they are. Like, you can't unsee this. I suppose I'm going to be quite vulnerable here. But,
Do it.
I had a little black book, not an actual black book, but you have a list in your head of, like, people that you can
Yeah.
just, and
Yeah.
like, even just conversations, like a little flirty conversation. That's what I mean. I don't have a black book of people that I just go sleep with, but it's still
Yes.
that engagement.
Yeah.
Let me clarify. That's not what I meant. I meant just like the act of flirting with someone. And that was like a big thing for me that I've just said no more. Like, I've changed completely how I'm living. And that book's got that. I burnt that book. Like, it's gone because I don't feel right doing that. I do
Yeah.
not feel right. And it's so amazing to say, like, this is why I say anybody can change. People can change. That was a pattern of mine because I was so scared to be alone and so scared not to be valued that I constantly looked for outside validation. And now
Yeah.
that I've got God and I'm good with God, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I'm really not. Like, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm really changing the behaviors. And it's such a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And anyone can do it. I'm telling you, if I can do it, this is a pep talk for the world right now. Like, if anyone is struggling with it,
Yeah.
validation's a big thing. I know we've kind of jumped topics now, but seeking
No, it's
validation
the
is
same
such a
though.
big
That's
thing.
the same. Yeah. They go
Yeah,
hand in hand, and that's what we do.
they do.
Yeah, I went through that process last year, and that's an ongoing process, right? Because, like, right when you burn your black book, right? And for me, that process meant really going through and shutting all those doors, shutting them. So for me,
Yeah.
I learned, unfortunately, from an abusive relationship, what guys actually think, because a
Mm.
healthy, normal guy won't throw all those restrictions on you, right? But I learned them from hearing them from someone who had no problem telling me all of his deepest fears and expecting that I do everything in my power to not trigger any of them, if you know what I mean. So, anyways, in that
Mm.
process, I learned that he was like, well, anytime you allow a guy to even feel like he can message you, and that I had never realized. My younger self was like, well, I'm not actively talking to anyone, or like I blocked them or this or that. Blocking isn't even enough. Like, really burning that black book means telling those people, like, I'm not interested in you. It's not that I have a boyfriend right now. It's not that maybe later I'm going to keep this door like kind of a little open, but not quite, or I'm going to block you. That way I can just unblock you when I'm single again. Like, burning that book means really telling all of those people, like, it's a no. It's not ever going to be a yes. And then what happens is, like you're saying, is that beautiful process, but it's really painful at first. Is you have, for me, many nights when you're sitting there, and I was so single and so alone and in the darkness of Seattle, and I was like, no one's gonna text me. No one. And I can't text anyone because I burnt every single bridge. And it's in that moment that you're like, okay, what's up, God? It's just you and me. Because you finally learn to be alone, and it's like fantastic once you get over that fact and you realize, like, oh, I didn't actually need that attention. I'm actually good without it. That's pretty cool, you know? And I feel like we go through that process though over and over, because once you burn all those contacts or whatever, you're still out existing in the world. They're still going to slide into the DMs. Like, who do you allow in? Who do you not? And that's the process of dating, right? But I think you're 100% right. We have to go through those times of learning to not need attention to feel validated as people, especially like as women, because it's
Well,
easy for us to get
I
attention,
think
right?
it is. Well, that's the thing. It is. It's so easy and it's addictive. It's addictive. I think that really is the that's what faith is. And like as you were speaking, I was just kind of like having this epiphany in my head about it. You completely put your faith in something that you can't see, but you can feel. And you learn to just let go of everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
it's quite a it's mind-blowing, you know?
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's hard though.
Not
It's like
needing
learning a new
anything else.
habit.
Faith is well, it is, but faith is the one thing that you can't BS. You can't because you either trust or you don't. You can't say that you trust because you're gonna feel it inside. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like you're gonna know that it's not working for you. Like it really is the ultimate test of putting words to actions. Because when you truly have that faith, and I'm just speaking from personal experience, like when I truly
Mhm.
develop that faith, and obviously I go through patches where like I'm like, oh, I'm a little bit lonely today. But I
Human.
get through it because
Yeah.
what I lean into my faith. It's amazing. It's so liberating.
Yeah. I'm going to close the door really quick because there's construction outside, because that's life. Okay. Hopefully that's better.
I literally couldn't even
Yeah.
hear. I couldn't hear a peep.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, no, and I mean, like, it's a very real fear. What I'm wrestling with and bouncing back and forth with lately is this, because I see so many girlfriends that are like dating and wanting to marry and this and that. I'm like, really, I've really embraced my season of single, And I'm like, every time I start to even entertain someone, even if they are like I said, I will not entertain someone if they are not marriage material. But even when I do,
Mm.
I'm like, have I had my season of single? Has it been long enough? Am I ready for this? You know what I mean? Like how long is long enough? And it varies for per person, but I really like that's a big priority for me is I want to be able to, and I mean at this point it's been like 2 years, but for me like that really single time means like those months when I had someone that I was almost thinking of dating, those don't count. My season of single is like the months where I had no one. No one saying good morning, no one checking in on me, like me and God. Like those are growth moments, you know? And like
Mm.
I really like think it's so important that you really have that time of independence before you go into a marriage. And I feel like when I see people that are really pursuing the Lord and they're not married yet and they really want to be, my first question is, have you had enough time by yourself? Like, would you still be this concerned about getting married if you really had had enough time by yourself? Because I believe that when you really stop idolizing whatever it is, money, marriage, love, any other validations that aren't the Lord, you come to this place of peace where you're like really genuinely happy with everything, you're happy with nothing, which means happy in your singleness, like really happy in your season. Like if someone is genuinely happy in their season of single, you won't hear them talking about looking for or wanting marriage at all. Like they're really like resting in it. They're chilling. Like, is that something that in the back of the head? Yeah, I want eventually for sure. Yeah. But it's not going to be like a primary topic if you're really in that place of like contentment. And I feel like you are right now. Like I've seen that in you. Like I feel like you really are, you're happy. You're enjoying your life. I don't hear you, calling me and being like, "Girl, like I just want to be married." You know what I mean? Like as much like we talk about stuff and like stuff comes up for sure, but like I feel like you are in a content, happy place in your life. And I don't know, I went on a rant a little bit. I just think that it's so important because you realize, I just have been realizing more and more lately that like once you get married, then like what's the idol gonna become? It's gonna be something else. And then what about when they die? Like you have to learn to be happy already with what you 100 million% happy, not like
You
50%.
do.
Yeah.
You really do. Like it's and it's hard. It's not easy. Like it's not easy, but I think anybody can achieve almost anything, if they
Mm-hmm.
want it badly enough. So like if you're committed enough and you want it badly enough, why are there these expressions like where there's a will, there's a way? Because they're
Yeah.
true. Because they're true.
Yeah.
We have to be prepared
Yeah.
to sit with our discomfort. If you want something
a
good,
hundred
nothing
percent.
good and worthwhile is ever easy. It's not. It's
Yep.
got to be
Yep.
forged in the fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of discomfort, okay, so the second hot topic I said we would talk about today, do I fight or flight? How do I know if it is a sign from the Lord to move forward, if I fight for something, or if I'm getting a sign to walk away from something?
Mm. Are you asking me? Are
We're
you
just
asking me
talking
or do
about
you
it. I
know?
want to see what your thoughts. I want to see what your thoughts are before I go on mine.
So, do you fight or flight?
Yeah, how do you know if the Lord is telling you to fight for something or if you should just wait and if it's meant to be, it will happen, or if he's telling you to walk away?
I think that really depends on how well you are able to sit in the quiet and reflect
Mhm.
and really hear that wisdom, that divine wisdom. I think it completely depends on that. If you are constantly running and there's noise in your head and you're not, and that's a trauma response, by the way, to like constantly need to
Yeah.
be moving. If you're not able to find that stillness, and if you don't take time in prayer and meditation, that's how you get that conscious contact with God. Prayer and meditation. You've got to take the time
Yeah.
to be quiet, read scripture. Um, and look, I mean, obviously, like I'm a baby on this journey, on this whole journey to Christ and God. I'm a baby. I'm a baby. There's so much still to learn. But what I am 100% confident in saying is that you will know when you have taken the time to get to know Him. I think that voice is calm. That voice comes from, it might not be what you want to hear, but it's going to come from a different place versus your trauma, which is, when we're in a space of trauma, our body, our parasympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, that's stimulated. And there's things like heart rate, shallow breathing, chest breathing.
Mhm.
Like that pins and needle, like racing mind, racing thoughts, inability to just center and sit still. And when you make a decision based from trauma, it's a impulsive decision.
Mhm.
It's impulsive. It's not being able to sit through the discomfort of the quiet
Yeah.
and then make a decision to be more responsive
Yeah.
and less reactive. I think, personally, that's how I do it myself.
Yeah. There's a lot of biblical backing to breath work. Actually my pastor brought it up this past week talking about breath work and how many times in the Bible the Lord uses breath as a very powerful tool. I do believe that there is serious weight in that meditation, that silence. The verse that has gotten me through so much, I like feel at peace just like thinking about it, is be still and know that I am God. Like, it's one little sentence and it just kind of answers all of the questions, right? Just like in that stillness. I think the biggest thing you said that is huge is that you'll feel a sense of peace.
Yeah.
Like when you know something is right, it just I will say it's an overwhelming peace.
Mm.
And there's been a few decisions in my life that people have said, like, you shouldn't do this. Like during COVID, I drove across the country. My dad was like, great idea, not ideal timing. Like, maybe, and any other time in your entire life would be a great time to do this. But I had this overwhelming sense of peace, and all of the pieces just fell together and made it happen. And it happened flawlessly. There was no issues. It just happened. Um, and I think that that's when we know it's the Lord. What's difficult is the times where it's not so obvious and you're trying to decipher between two good options, right?
Well, nobody said choice was going to be easy.
No. You
There's
know what's so
sacrifice.
funny?
There's
My
always going to be
grandma,
sacrifice.
yes. Yes. What's it worth comes to mind. Like
Mm.
when you're making a choice, you think to yourself, what's it worth? If you're losing something, if you're gaining self, like, is it worth what I'm losing
Mm.
to make this choice? Because you're always, like you said, you're always going to be sacrificing something no matter what choice you make. What I found really interesting is my grandma, who is on a pedestal she deserves to be on in my mind. I love that woman. She I went with her and she was picking out a chair for her living room. and she was just having the darndest time choosing this chair. And I was like, what? You have a hard time with choices too? Like, even though it's just a chair, But that was actually so encouraging because I'm like, yeah, choices are hard, even for someone who is
Yes.
like a rock in her faith, a rock, but it's human. And
Every
like,
choice is a commitment on some level. It's a commitment and it's
mm-hmm,
the closing of a door. One door opens, another has to close. And if you're anything like me, I never
yeah,
wanted to close any doors. Like, leave them all open. And I'm
yep.
not advising that. Lessons are meant to be learned, not repeated.
Don't do that. Yeah, we learned the hard way to
Oh,
not do
didn't
that.
we not ever?
But yeah, I mean, uh, okay, so one thing I will say, and I have a hard time with this myself. Really hard time. But theoretically, if you are having a hard time deciding between two things, like if you choose the thing that you know is right, like it's rare, it's not going to come back and bite you in the butt. It's just not. If you do the right thing, you're never going to be like, oh, darn, I really wish I didn't. But I think the challenge is when it's between two things that are both right. They're both not, there's no obvious
Exactly.
wrong. There's a lot of gray area. Yeah.
It comes down to the idea of we can't always, most of the time, actually, we can't have our cake and eat it too. And if you're used to having it all and then just suddenly you can't, it can be a rude awakening. But generally, like most of the world operates on one or the other, not both. That's very vague, but
Well, what do you want to go into that a little more?
no. Where's my mind going?
Nope.
No, nope.
Okay,
I
that's
just
okay.
mean
That's okay.
sometimes there have been tough choices in my life, like having to choose um who to pick, and I don't like those choices. I really don't like them. It puts me in an awful position. And I
Yeah.
think previously I was just coming from such a lost space that I didn't know who I was, so I couldn't choose. But
Yeah.
making choices is hard because, you know, if you don't choose fast enough, someone always ends up getting hurt. Everybody gets hurt. You got to just make a choice and stick to it.
Or it's like, I think my biggest fear lately is if you don't choose, life will choose for you.
Yes.
And it might hurt. If you don't choose, like, it will probably hurt. It's probably going to hurt you and whoever is involved if you don't make a choice. And if you do make a choice, like, stick to it. But then what we were talking about the other day, right, is don't make a choice sometimes and just wait and the Lord will show you. So, like, that therein lies the difficulty is sometimes you stop and you be still and you take a step back. And sometimes, like, you have to make a choice.
Well, I think that it's always good to take the time before making a choice. You need to sit with stuff before you
Yes.
just jump headlong into things.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm all for taking time because I never used to. I was very much always like instant gratification, choice now. I didn't like to sit with anything. And many painful lessons later, I
Yeah.
now really do sit with things before I make a decision. Trust me, it
Yeah.
is the way to go.
What I've noticed is that, yeah, I think that's the perfect answer, actually, is
Mm.
you have to make a choice, but don't rush to make a choice. So our conclusion is take the time, pray about it, and then do make a choice, right? But I noticed, like, in my past, I would be worrying about something, and instead of just acting on it immediately, I would give it some time, and sometimes it would work itself out
Mm.
before I even had to do anything.
Yeah,
And that's ideal, right? But if it's not working itself out, then you do need to make a choice. But at this point, you've had time to pray about it and decide what that choice is going to be.
exactly.
And it's usually a little easier. Yeah. So we just solved all the world's problems in 30
Yep.
minutes. So thanks for
One
watching, guys.
relational issue at a time.
And I need to braid my hair so it stays out of my face.
Well, I do not need to braid my hair. I am going to go to bed.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like below, put any questions. I know we're still figuring it out, but we are sharing from experience that hopefully you can take what we have learned and prevent yourselves from getting hurt in the way we have, and also enjoy the same blessings we have from some of the things we've also learned from doing the right thing. So that's what we're here to just kind of share with you our vulnerability, our truth, as we're going through this crazy thing called life.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear if you guys want us to answer questions on one of our next episodes. Shoot us some questions. Don't be shy.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
We're done.
And remember you are loved individually, divinely. I don't remember what it is. It's really good. Wait, actually I have to add
Appropriately.
this. Appropriately, all the things. Wait, this is so good, and we're going to start using it. Wholly, completely, individually. Wait, you're gonna love this. Oh my gosh. Okay. Where is it?
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Where is it? I sent you too many things. Individually, deeply, and personally. We love you.
We love you.
Subscribe and like below. We'll see you next time. Ciao. How do I end this thing?
I'll do it.